Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something vital, something incredibly relevant right now. Our deep-seated need for human connection.
Yeah, and what actually happens when that connection, well, when it breaks down,
Yeah,
both for us as individuals and, society as a whole.
right. And we're pulling from some fascinating places for this deep dive. There's a classic poem, some pretty eye-opening public health reports, and insights from modern psychology, too.
Mhm.
The goal here is to really understand why connection is so fundamental, not just how we connect, but why it matters so much, especially now in a world that feels increasingly isolated.
And the big question we want you to kind of hold on to throughout this is, what's the real cost when we're isolated?
Hmm.
And maybe more importantly, how can we actually build deeper connections?
Yeah, how do we foster that?
We're even going to touch on some surprising things, like how loneliness stacks up against certain physical health risks. It's quite stark, actually.
Okay, so let's start with something really evocative. It's from Khalil Gibran's poem, And When My Joy Was Born.
Ah, yes. Beautiful piece.
It really is. So the speaker in the poem, he experiences this sudden, huge wave of joy. It's described as this gladsome thing that laugheth in the sun.
So vibrant. Yeah.
Exactly. And his first instinct is to share it. He rushes up to his rooftop, calls out to his neighbors, come see this wonderful thing.
That impulse to share.
Right. But here's the twist. No one comes.
Hmm.
He waits. For days. For months, actually. 7 moons, the poem says. He keeps inviting them, and still, nothing. Silence.
And that silence is so powerful. Gibran uses this simple story, doesn't he, to explore something profound about happiness and isolation.
He really does.
That immediate urge to share, it highlights this fundamental human thing. We want others to witness our joy, to participate in it somehow.
Yeah, it needs an audience almost.
Kind of. And when that doesn't happen in the poem, the message becomes pretty clear.
Yeah.
Human happiness, it often needs that shared experience to really flourish. It needs connection. Otherwise, as Gibran puts it so poignantly, even the most intense joy can just wither. It dies of isolation if it isn't shared, isn't reciprocated. It really sets the stage emotionally for why connection is just so crucial.
It's amazing how that insight from Gibran, written so long ago, feels incredibly relevant when we look at our world today.
It really does bridge the gap, doesn't it?
Yeah. Take this observation from Vice Admiral Vivek Murthy, the U.S. Surgeon General. He talked about college dining halls.
Right. Used to be noisy places.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The hub of campus life, lots of chatter. But now, he says, they're often falling silent. Students are there, but they're on their phones, their devices, not really talking face to face.
And there's a neurological reason behind some of that, isn't there? This involves dopamine.
Explain that a bit.
Well, when we do something that triggers a dopamine release, that's the brain's reward chemical, it creates this feedback loop. We want to do it again.
Like checking social media, getting a notification.
Exactly, those little hits. And this constant loop, often driven by our gadgets and social media platforms, it can actually contribute to this wider feeling of loneliness and social isolation. We're seeking connection, maybe, but it's often a sort of fleeting digital version.
And the consequences are pretty serious.
They really are.
This isn't just about feeling bad. Widespread loneliness is now being flagged as a major health risk. The comparison that gets used is striking. Its impact is likened to smoking, a dozen cigarettes a day?
That's the figure, yeah. 15 cigarettes a day, some reports say. It's a really powerful comparison.
It is. It makes you stop and think. So what is it about being lonely that has such a physical effect? Is it stress?
Stress is part of it, definitely. But there's more. Research is showing that chronic social isolation can actually lead to measurable changes in the brain, specifically volume loss in the prefrontal cortex.
The decision-making part of the brain.
Exactly. Problem-solving, planning, decision-making. Studies are concluding that chronic loneliness can literally alter brain structure over time. And it's important, too, to make a distinction here. There's subjective loneliness. That's the feeling of being lonely, which you can feel even in a crowd, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's objective social isolation. That's the measurable lack of social contact. They're different, but both can have negative impacts.
Okay, so thinking about the internet again, it feels like such a double-edged sword.
Totally.
On the one hand, it offers incredible ways to find community, connect with people miles away, express yourself.
Absolutely. Huge potential.
But then you hear so many people say it makes them feel more isolated, more anxious. Comparison, maybe?
That's a big part of it. Comparison traps, yes. Also, echo chambers. The pressure to perform or present a perfect life. It's complex. These platforms are designed to keep us engaged, But that engagement doesn't always translate to genuine deep connection.
And scientists are drawing clear lines now.
Yes, there's a well-established link between this kind of modern loneliness and conditions like anxiety and depression. It's not just, in your head. It has real health consequences.
Which explains why the World Health Organization stepped in.
Exactly. In 2023, the WHO declared loneliness a global public health concern. That's a massive statement. It signals this is something we need to address on a systemic level.
That WHO declaration, it leads us perfectly into this quote from Johann Hari. He said, "The opposite of connection is connection."
Powerful line.
It really is. And it's central to his book, Lost Connections, Why You're Depressed and How to Find Hope.
A book that really pushes back against the purely chemical model of depression and anxiety.
Right. He argues we need to look deeper, beyond just brain chemistry, into how we're living.
His core idea is that depression and anxiety often stem from, unmet psychological needs, from these fundamental disconnections in different parts of our lives. He calls them the lost connections.
It shifts the focus, doesn't it, from what's wrong with you to what's happening to you.
Precisely. It looks at the environment, the societal factors. Hari lays out 9 specific areas where he sees these disconnections happening.
Okay, let's walk through some of them. The first one he mentions is disconnection from meaningful work.
Yeah, this one resonates with a lot of people, I think. When your job feels pointless or repetitive or just, soul-crushing.
It drains you.
Absolutely. It eats away at that need we all have for purpose, for feeling like we contribute something valuable. A huge chunk of our lives is spent working, so if that feels empty, it has a massive impact.
Then there's the one we've already touched on quite a bit, disconnection from other people. How does Hari frame that specifically?
He goes beyond just being physically alone. He talks about the lack of real, authentic connection, feeling truly seen, understood, like you belong.
Not just superficial interactions.
Right. Social media might give us lots of interactions, but are they deep? Do they nourish that need? Often, Hari argues they don't, and can even make the feeling of isolation worse.
Okay. Another key one is disconnection from meaningful values. What's he getting at there?
He argues our society often bombards us with extrinsic values, things like money, status, looking good, external validation.
Instead of intrinsic values.
Exactly. Things like community, personal growth, finding meaning, compassion, connecting with nature. Hari believes that chasing those extrinsic goals, which are heavily promoted, often leaves people feeling empty and dissatisfied because they don't actually meet our core psychological needs. That creates a kind of spiritual sickness.
That makes sense. Then he dives into some areas that maybe feel a bit deeper or less obvious.
Right. Things like disconnection from childhood trauma, unresolved issues from the past affecting the present.
Okay.
Also disconnection from status and respect, feeling powerless, disrespected, not valued in society or your community.
That sense of agency.
Yeah. And disconnection from the natural world. He points to urbanization, lack of access to green spaces, and how that impacts our mental well-being. We evolved in nature after all.
We did.
And disconnection from a hopeful or secure future. This feeling of uncertainty, maybe despair about where things are heading personally or globally, that lack of hope is corrosive.
And then he addresses the biological side, too.
He does. He includes the role of genes and brain changes, but, and this is crucial, he argues they aren't the whole story, often not even the main driver.
So they're part of the picture, but not the cause in isolation.
Exactly. He emphasizes the interplay between our biology and our experiences, our environment, and finally he tackles the real role of antidepressants.
What's his take there? It can be controversial.
It can be. He argues that while they absolutely help some people manage symptoms, they might be overprescribed and often don't address these underlying environmental and psychological root causes, these lost connections we've been talking about.